There is nothing more trendy or cute than a little succulent garden.
That's right. I don't want to brag. I did create my own little garden, a succulent garden at Family Tree Nursery. Check it out. I'm going to ask us the silly question first. What's a succulent?
A succulent? It's a great question. Succulents are basically just plants that are more, the leaves are more plump, they hold a lot more moisture in them, so they can go a long time without water. So they're native to like the deserts, Arizona and places like that where they don't get a lot of water. So when they do, it stores it in the leaves and then it can go a long time before it gets water again.
Well, they look really cool, and I've seen some of the examples you guys have set up around the greenhouse here. How do we get started with our succulent garden?
People always ask when they're doing it, like, well, which ones go together? Which ones should I do? And I always tell people, you can literally take any of these, put them together, and it's gonna look cool. Because the thing about succulents is there's tons of colors and textures and sizes. So any of them going together, they contrast each other, they balance each other out, and it just always looks cool. I've never seen one that doesn't look cool with all of them mixed together.
But you definitely have a method when you guys put together something like this though, right? Because they look fantastic.
Yeah, and our method is basically getting a few things that are gonna grow taller, and then some things that maybe cascade over the edge, and then some other things that are gonna fill in the middle. So whenever we're talking about making, whether it's a succulent arrangement or like an annual flower pot, we always talk about your thriller, your filler, and your spiller.
Well, we're making our succulent garden now, so obviously we can't start without a little bit of soil in there, right?
Yep, we're just gonna add a little bit of soil into the bottom. So we don't want to put too much or else, the root ball will stick over the top.
So just a couple inches?
Just kind of put some in there and pack it in a little bit.
Okay.
And then we're going to start with something taller. I love adding aloe vera into an arrangement because it's usable. It's not just pretty and cool, but it's also something that can be of use. So we'll kind of go right in the middle with him because he's our main height focus.
Yeah, we're not pushing it in too deep or we're not carving it out around for it, right?
The goal is when we get done, we want our soil level to be maybe a ½ inch to an inch below the lip of the pot. So when we water it at home, we don't end up with soil all over our sink or all over our patio. Why don't you grab like that purple one there? That's an aeonium, and those are going to continue to grow taller, so it's going to be another height aspect. For me, I've got a jade. We're going to go kind of right up against that aloe vera. And the cool thing about this is people sometimes are like, well, you got to give them a little room to grow, right? And I always say, just kind of tuck them right against each other, because that's how, like in these arrangements that are already done, they look so cool because they're so
they're
full.
So close
you don't see the soil and those textures just grow into each other.
So what do you think draws people to the succulent gardens and the succulent flowers, other than just the uniqueness of the plant itself? Is maybe just like customizing your own design, or? Yeah,
it's partly, there's so many varieties, there's so much selection. So like, no two people are hardly gonna have the same arrangement. So it's very personal in what you're doing. And they're really easy to take care of in that they can go real dry between waterings. And so it's not something that's gonna, dry out and all of a sudden it dies, which some plants will do that. They're real finicky, and succulents are not like that. They, you forget to water them, you got a busy schedule like a lot of us do in today's, world. They're gonna forgive you.
If only people were as forgiving as succulents, right? Now those gardens look great. We still have another step. We're gonna show you that in just a little bit.
Man, Bill, I was really impressed with your greenhouse abilities.
They're still alive, right, so far.
They're so cute.
All right, welcome back to Better Kansas City. Now, I'd like to openly say, rocks, I've taken you for granted. That's right, I've kicked you with my shoe, I've tossed you from my yard. I didn't truly appreciate you until I saw how you took the succulent garden that I made at Family Tree Nursery to the next level.
This is a nice arrangement. You could add a few more things, but the reality is at this point, you still see some dirt and it doesn't look totally finished. We bring in this rock though. And so what we can do now is we'll take the rock and we're just gonna dump it right on top of the soil. And it's amazing watching an arrangement go from being okay, and then you put rock on top of the soil and you cover the dirt, and it just like
it really makes it pop then.
Oh man, it totally changes it, and it makes it look finished, it makes it look clean. And again, that's why we want to make sure that the level of soil is a little down, because then we can add this rock on top. And a lot of times people keep these inside, and if the rocks are too high up, then they overflow into your sink and into your garbage disposal, and that's problematic. So
yeah, you don't want to chew up your garbage disposal chewing up rocks. Probably.
Yeah, right. All for the sake of the plants, right? The things we do for our plants. So yeah, we just kind of keep tucking that in there. And the rock's not necessary for any other reason than decorative. Sometimes people go, well, is that going to help hold the moisture in or help them not dry out as fast? And That's not really why we're doing it at all. It's just because it looks cool. You know, you can use white rock, you could use colorful like blue rock. I've seen people do blue rock and pink rock and stuff. And sometimes that really accentuates the plants too by adding in a real pretty colorful rock. So
do you have enough room to squeeze this guy back there?
You got room.
Okay.
You got room. I mean, you can see how these other arrangements are. There's same size pot as you have, and there's 10 or 12 things in there. So
I'm gonna try to squeeze that one guy left in there still.
Yeah, you're kind of getting into this.
Dude, this is a lot of fun. I'm not gonna keep.
We're gonna have to hire you if you keep doing so good at this.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. The news station's gonna have to fight for you.
You see, listen to that. They're offering me more jobs here. Come on now. I really like this. Now it looks almost, I mean, like 2x2 square, you know, there for half of it. But,
but
I have
this
the
guy
plants
is going to grow
overlap.
up. He's going to kind of come up and face out, and those are going to kind of fill in down around him.
Yeah.
So like as it keeps growing, that's what's really cool about him too, is they morph throughout the year. You know, I mean, the aloe vera is going to keep growing, and the aloe vera grow what's called pups. They'll have another little like baby plants grow off of them. So it'll keep like multiplying itself, so that'll be cool to see. And like this guy keeps thickening. So the whole thing as you watch it grow is super fun and interesting.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There is our succulent gardens that we've created out at Family Tree Nursery. So yeah, I rock. And while I was there, I also did ask Jesse about spring planting, and he explains the big differences between this year and last year, along with how early you can start, and that's coming up in our next half hour.
Welcome back. It's time to make amends.
That's right, not with people, but with your garden beds. We have Jesse from Family Tree Nursery share tips on helping with your spring planting. What are some tips that you can give for people to get ready for spring planting?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you know, if you're gonna be doing some planting this spring, maybe amending your beds, you know, getting some compost worked into the soil. You know, it's still pretty wet in the soil right now. We've got a lot of moisture this winter, which is good for the plants, but it's hard to really get out right now and do too much prep work. So, you know, some leaf cleanup. If you didn't get around to cleaning all your perennials up in the fall, now would be a good time to get out, cut things back a little bit and clean them up as far as your perennial material, and just getting your beds ready to put your new annuals in, you know, any new perennials and stuff.
With it being as wet as it is this year, would you recommend we wait for it to dry up a little bit, or we still want to get in there while it's good and good and wet there in our flower beds?
But you know, now's a good time for like cool season vegetables. That'd be like your lettuce, your spinach, broccoli, cabbage and kale.
All the good stuff for you.
Yeah, the stuff that's real good for you. All your root crops, your carrots, radishes, beets.
Okay, stuff like that.
It just depends year to year. There's been years where you could plant a tomato March 1st and it would have been okay. Every year, last year it was super late because we had freezes all the way through April and then like a snow, I think, at the beginning of May. And so people weren't able to even plant anything until mid-May, and it was just super late. But I'm hoping it breaks earlier this year, you know, and people hopefully can start getting stuff in the ground or at least into their pots, you know, in April, to where if it's a cold night, they could pull their pots in maybe.
Well, at least we're finally getting some of this nicer weather outside, it seems like, rather than that cold snap that we had there last year that seemed to carry on forever.
Yeah, even the sunshine is just a huge spirit lifter.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely have felt better, especially with that sun out all weekend. It was fantastic. I know today is supposed to be another great day with highs almost in the 70s, so maybe a good day to get out there and maybe try a little bit in the garden. I don't know. Normally,
oh my gosh, so I will say this, right? All of our plants at our house are still inside because it's not quite like good overnight to bring those plants outside, and I think that's what he was kind of touching on.
No, definitely, and we usually wait along the lines of Mother's Day, you know, before we really get dirty, but it's still a good time to have, and always love to have the plants that are around the front of the house.